Hey, what's going on guys? Welcome back to another video. So in this video, we will design and build Node.js Serverless e-commerce REST API backend project. And in this video, we will see how we do the authentication and authorization and how to write functions and deploy them as REST endpoints. So this is going to be a long video and we're going to learn a lot of topics related to Node.js. So if this sounds interesting, then stick around. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon so that you don't miss the videos like this one. So let's get started. Alright guys, so we are going to build the Node.js Serverless REST API as a function project, and in that we are going to build the e-commerce backend API. So these are the modules for the e-commerce backend API that we are going to build. We are going to have the auth, which is going to handle our authentication. Then we are going to have a user module which will have our users, maybe an admin user or a non-admin user. Then we are going to have the products. We will have the orders, cart and checkout. Now these modules will have their own functions and we are going to create the function as an API. So let me show you what functions that we are going to have. So for the auth, we are going to have a login function which is going to handle the authentication. For the users, we are going to have the registered user, update user, and delete user. And we are also going to distinguish between an admin user and a normal user for authorization purpose. So if we have an admin user, then he can create the product, update product, and delete product. But a normal user cannot update, delete, or create products. They can only read the products. Similarly, for the orders, a user can have a create order, update order, but a user cannot delete the order. Only admin user can delete the orders. Then we are also going to have read all orders, which an admin user can read all the orders in the database, but we can also have an API which will read only the orders of a logged in user. Similarly, for cart, we have the create, update, delete and read all the cart for the logged in user. Then we are going to have a checkout where we are going to create a payment intent and we are going to integrate with the Stripe payment. So now let's go and let's start building this backend project, which is going to be a very long, but it's going to be very exciting. And we're going to learn a lot of new features here as this is going to be a serverless project. We are not going to create any Express server or any Express app. So let's go and let's start writing our functions, which we can have it as an API. So I'm going to use the AirCode, and this is a Node.js stack for API development, and this is going to offer us the serverless capability where we don't need to have any Express server or any local setup for our development. So I have already created an account with the AirCode. It's free. You can create by yourself. And then I'm going to go to the dashboard. And in the dashboard, you will see that we have the apps where I'm going to create a new Node.js app. So I'm going to click on it and I'm going to name it as e-commerce backend project. I'm not going to use a TypeScript, but if you want to use the TypeScript, you can just have a checkbox here. Then it's going to create the TypeScript files. I'm going to click on create. All right. So now you can see that we have a complete interface where we have all the file structures on the left hand side. We can edit any of the file in the center, and on the right hand side we can see that we have a debug. We can have the environment variables if we want. We can do the deployments, logs, and then we have the schedules. And below you will see that we have the console. So whenever we do any of the debug or we run any function. So let's take an example. This is an AirCode and it's a very simple function which takes a parameter, context, and it console log whatever the params is, and usually whatever we pass in the params, they are going to take it as a params, and it returns hi AirCode. So if I click on the debug, then you will see that we have the console and it's initializing our function. It received the parameters and we have the response, which is here. So it's that pretty easy to create functions and then run it. We will also see how we can deploy these functions in the cloud, and then we can easily have the API endpoints and we can build the front end for that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to zoom this a little bit, all right, so that we can see it clearly. And now let's start creating first with the folder structure. So I'm going to go to the AirCode here and we will see that we have the modules like auth, user, product, order, cart, and checkout. So let's start first creating with the folder structure. So I'm going to click on this folder and the first thing we will have is the auth. Now I have the auth. Inside the auth, I'm going to create a login.js file. So I'm going to have the login.js. All right, we have the login. Next, if we go and see, we have the users. So let's create a user folder. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to create user. So let me have the user, and inside the user, we are going to create three different function files, which is the register, update, and delete. So let's create that. So I'm going to go to users. I will click here. I'm going to have add new file, and here I'm going to write it as register. So let's have the register.js. The next file we want is the update. So I'm going to have the update, and then we're going to have the delete. So let's have a new file, and I'm going to have the delete. Now let's go back and let's see, we have the products, we have the create, update, delete, and read. So let's go and create the products. So I'm going to have the next, we are going to have the delete products. So we're going to have the read, or I'm going to say it as all. So this is going to give us all the products. All right. Now the other one will be the orders. So let's start creating for the orders. So I'm going to go here, and inside the order, what we can do is we can create the orders. So let's add a create function. So you must be seeing that we give us very similar name, but that will not be a problem when we actually deploy it. It's going to take it from the folder structure. I will show you how we can do this. So let's create all the files first. All orders, but inside the order we will also need to have a function or an endpoint for the API, which is going to give us the orders of a particular user. So I am a logged in users, and if I want to see all my orders, so that's where what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a folder called user. Okay, and inside the user I'm going to have the all.js. All right, now we have the orders. Now next we will have the cart. So let's have the cart. New folder, which is going to be a user, and I'm going to have a all.js here. So we have the cart, we have the order, we have the product. Now if we go, then we will just need to have the checkout. So let's have the checkout here. All right, now apart from all this, I will also need the helper function. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new folder for the helper function. So I will go here and I'm going to have the helper. All right, and inside the helper function, I'm going to create one function which will be verified tokens. So let's have a verify token. All right, so we have almost created all the functions, and you will see that all the function have these sample code, which is the simple a function where we just return the high AirCode. So now we will start by creating the login first. So, or maybe we'll start by creating the register user function. So let's go to the user, and you must be wondering that what database we are going to use. So AirCode has already integrated MongoDB database. So if I go and click on this database, then you will see we have all the collections here. So as we progress, we are going to create multiple collections in our database, and it is using the MongoDB database and the backend. All right, so what we will do is first let's go to the user and let's have the register user. So I'm going to go here. So now what we will do is we will also need to install some dependencies. So for the dependencies, what we can do is if we scroll down, then you will see that we have all the dependencies. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to install all the dependencies that we need. So AirCode is by default already installed, but apart from that, what we will need is we will need the bcrypt library. So I'm going to have the bcrypt package, and you will see that it gives us all the packages. So I'm going to just click on this plus icon, and it is going to add the dependency for our project. All right, so we have the bcrypt installed. Now the next we will need is .env. So let's have the .env, and I'm going to click on this plus icon, and you will also see that we have all the logs that are being executed here. So it's installing the .env package, and then it says it's installed in 6.9 seconds. Okay, we will also need the JSON web token. So I'm going to have the JSON web token, and I'm going to click on this plus icon. All right, so the JSON web token is installed, and the last is the Stripe. So we are going to create the payment intent. So let's have the Stripe dependency as well. So I'm going to click on the plus icon. All right, so now all our dependencies which we need for this project is installed. So we are not going to install any Express because we are not going to create any Express app or a server. So this is going to be a serverless project. So now I can just minimize this, and let's go to our register function. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to first have the constant, and I will have the bcrypt. So let's have the bcrypt, which will be equals to the require here, and I'm going to have the bcrypt here. So let's have the bcrypt. Then what we will do is I'm going to have the module.export function. We are going to have the params, whatever parameters we are going to pass, or whatever the request body we pass to the API, this is termed as a parameters here. And this context is going to have all our headers and everything related to the request information. So I'm going to just copy, and I'm going to have a context as well, so that later on I can show you what we get in the context. So I'm going to have the context here, and I'm going to have the received context here. Now, first what we are going to do is we are going to destructure the information that we are going to pass from our request body, which is the params. All right. So I'm going to go here, and I'm going to just drag this, and in order to create a new user, what we are going to have the name, which can be the page. Then we are going to pass the email address. So let's have the email address, the page @gmail.com, and then we are going to have the password. So let's have the password, and I'm going to give the password as 1 2 3 4 5 6. Now I will show you, if I just do a debug here, then it is going to execute this function, and we see that the function is getting executed. We received all the parameters, which is the name, email, and the password. And in this context, you will also see that we have the response header, cookies, response cookies, status code, method, path, and all the information that we are passing in this request, because it is going to treat the function as a request. All right, now let's go and let's have the destructure. So we are going to have the name, email, and we are going to have the password. All right, I will just make a quickly check on this. So if name or email or password, all right, if we don't have this, then in that case we are going to have an error response. So what we will do is, if we want to set the status code of this request, we're going to have the context dot status, and we're going to have the status as 400. And apart from that, we will also return a message. So let's have a message here, where I'm going to have the message, and the body of the message will be all fields are mandatory. The next thing what we need to do is whenever we create the user, we need to store the user in our user collection. So what I will do is, I'm going to have a constant, I will term it as a user table, and then this is going to give us this AirCode. It actually gives us the capability to access our collections and create collections. So I'm going to have the AirCode.db.table, and we are going to name the collection as user. Now we have the reference of the user collection, which we term it as a user table, and now we can perform all the operations on this user table. So first we are going to check whether the user which we are trying to register is already exist in the database or not. So I'm going to have the user exist, which will be await, and I'm going to have the user table. Then we have the .where clause, where we can actually check. So I'm going to check via email. So this is going to have the email, and then we are going to have the find one. All right, these are inbuilt functions which the AirCode is offering. So if you want to learn more about this inbuilt functions, then what you can do is you can just click on the docs here, and then we are going to go for the database, and here you will see that we have all the information. So if it's a find and we are trying to find a record, then you will find a complete thorough documentation which you can refer anytime. Now let's go back to the project, and here we will see that if this exists, then in that case we are just going to make a check that if user exists, then in that case let's have the status code. So I'm going to have the context status as 409, as it conflicts with the existing user. Then what I will do is I'm going to have the return message here, and here I'm going to have the message, and we are going to set that user already exist. Exist. All right, I'm going to save it. And then what we are going to do is, if the user doesn't exist and if it's a new user, then in that case what we will do is we're going to create the record in our collection. So what I will do is I'm going to have a simple try catch block, and I'm going to have a catch block, all right, which is going to have the error object. And what we will do is, if it's an error, then we're going to have the context dot status. We're going to set the status as 500, and let's have a message. So I'm going to have a message. So let's have a message, and we're going to have the error dot message. So this will become error dot message. All right, and we see that we have a problem, so this is going to be a colon, and we're going to have the error dot message. So this is a catch block, and we are just going to remove this. We don't want this. All right, and now let's have this try block. So in this try block, what we are going to do is, first we need to distinguish that every time whenever we register a user for this project, the first user will always be an admin user. So for that, what I will do is I will first go and take the count of the user table. If the count is 0, that means this is the first user getting registered, and the first user should be an admin user. So let's have a constant. I'm going to have a count. So let's count the user table. All right, where we are not going to pass any condition. We are just going to count, and we can have a simple count here. And this, let's have a console log as well. So console.log, the user count is, so we are going to have the user count, and I'm going to have the count here. All right, now I'm going to create a new user. So what I will do is I'm going to have a constant new user, and to this constant what I'm going to pass is we are going to have the name, we're going to have the email, we are going to have the password. So for the password field, we cannot store the raw password, so we are going to have the hashed password. All right, so I'm going to change this to camel case, hashed password, and then what we will do is we are going to have the isAdmin as false. So I'm going to have the isAdmin. All right, I'm going to give it as false. All right, now since we did not hash the password, let's hash the password first. So I'm going to have the password hashing. All right, and here what I will do is I'm simply going to use the bcrypt library. So this is going to have the hashed password, which is going to be equals to a wait, and then I'm going to use the bcrypt. So let's have the bcrypts dot hash, and we are going to pass our password here. So I'm going to have the password, and I'm going to use the salt as 10. So this is going to give us a hashed password, which we will store it in our database, as we cannot store the raw password. Now we have this. Now what we are going to do is we are going to check first that if it's an admin user or not. So for that, if the count is equal to 0, that means it's a first user registration. And in this case, what we will do is we are going to have this new user which we have created, and we are going to just change the field of isAdmin. So let me have the isAdmin, and we're going to make the isAdmin as true. All right, and once we have this, what we will do is we are going to just save the record. So I'm going to save the record in the user table, and I'm going to give as save, and we are going to pass the new user. All right, now this is going to store a new user in our collection, and we need to return something to the user back. So we are going to return some response, and for that what we will do is I'm going to read the record that we have stored, and we are just going to omit some of the field. Like when we return the response, we don't want password to be included in our response. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a constant result. All right, I'm going to just do a read to my table. So I will have the user table, all right, dot where we are going to read it via email address. All right, then we are going to have a projection. All right, and in this projection, what you can do is you can actually pass the values which you want to omit. So if you want to read more about projection, you can always go to the documentation and you can refer it. So if we go to projection, then you will see here that the query results will include all the fields of the record. If you want to omit some irrelevant fields, you can just pass the field and the value. So if it's a 0, then the return field will get exclude. If you pass the 1, then it will get include. So what I'm going to do is I want to exclude some fields. So first I'm going to exclude the password. All right, so I'm going to have the 0 value, and I also want that user should not see isAdmin true or false. So I'm going to have that as well. So we need to have this as an object. So I'm going to have the braces here. I will have the brace here as well. All right, I'm going to have the colon, and then I'm going to omit this as well. Oops, not semicolon. Then we will do a find, and that is going to give us the result. So we have the result, and now let's give a simple response. So I'm going to have the context dot status 201. The record is created, and then we are going to return the response. So in this response, what I want to do is whatever I have in the result, just return it back. All right, I'm going to save it. So we have written the complete function. So let me minimize this and let me show you. So this is our complete function where we just destructure the parameters, then we just make a check for validation. We have the user table reference reference. Then we are going to have, we check the user exists. If it exists, we throw an error. And then what we do is first we do a count, because whenever the first user register themselves, we need to make him as an admin user. All right, we do the password hashing, we create the new user object, we change the field of is admin if the count is 0, then we save it in the database. We fetch again in the database with omitted fields. We don't want password to be included and is admin to be included. Then we just set the contact status 201, the record created, and we have a result, and this is all done. Now if we want to test it, it's very easy. We don't need to go to the Postman, we can do everything from here. So we have this user/register.js, we pass the information, so we can go to the console and we can check anytime. If we go to the database, we don't see any user table at this moment. All right, let's do a debug. So I'm going to click on the debug, and this is going to execute this function. So you see that the user count is 0 and we have the response, and we see the response is 201, and you will also see the fields here. So if I show you here, then we have the ID, we have the name, email, created ad, and updated ad. All right, we see here that we have this 0 here. So what we will do is I'm just going to do a console log, and I will see what actually this result is. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to have a console.log, and the result is colon, and then I'm going to have here the result. So before doing this, I also want to make this as an admin user again. So what we will do is we will first go to the database and we see that is this record available in the database or not. So you will see that now we have the user collection here. And if I click on this user collection, you will see that we have the user ID, we have the name, email, password, which is a hash password, is admin as true, created ad, and updated ad. And you will also notice that password and is admin is not part of the response that we send it to the user. Now I'm going to delete this. Okay, so I'm going to check this and I'm going to click on delete data. So this is going to delete my data because I want to create the record again and I want to see what this result is. So I'm going to click on debug again and it's going to execute the function again. All right, so you will see that we have the result, and the result, it's an array of the data. So we're going to pass it as it is because it is always going to be an array. All right, so this time we will have an array and we will not have this. We will have an array of the objects. All right, if we go to the database, we can go and we can see this is the data that is stored in the database. All right, that's perfect. So now register API is working. Now the next task what will be is to deploy this function. So what we will do is we are going to go on the top and we are going to click on this deploy, and we don't want to deploy all the functions. We only want to deploy the register. So I'm going to cancel everything because otherwise it's going to deploy all the functions. All right, I have this and we are going to write it as register user function. So I'm going to have the register user function. All right, I'm going to click on deploy. It also shows the difference if you want to see. So that's powerful. The AirCode platform is. I'm going to have the height difference. All right, and then we are simply going to select the register. So let's have the register. All right, and now I'm going to click on deploy, or I will just have the register user function. All right, I'm going to click on deploy and you will see that this deployment now started, and here you will also see that start deploying the user register, and it will just take few seconds to deploy it. Once it is deployed, you will see that we have the URL here. So https ru something something AirCode, we have the user, and inside the user we have the register. Now you can use this endpoint and you can integrate the APIs into your front end, and you can have the functionality for the registered user. All right, so now we have registered the user. Now let's create a second user. So what I will do is for the second user, I'm going to have the name as Ivan. All right, and this will be Ivan, and I'm going to keep the password as it is. And if we go to the database and if I click on the debug, then now this time you will see that this user is not an admin user and it will be treated as a normal user. So if I go to database, we're going to have the second entry, and if I click on it, you will see that is admin is false. So this user is a normal user and not an admin user. Now let's go and let's start working on the login API. So let's do the authentication part. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to click on the auth login. All right. And for the login, what we have is for the login, we are going to have the email address. So I'm going to have the email address of the page @gmail.com. All right, and then I'm going to have the password. So let's have the password, and the password is 123456. And now we are going to make use of this function and let's write it. So what I'm going to do is So let's go here and let's import. So what we will do is we will also need the JWT. So we are going to create the token. So I'm going to have the JWT, which is going to be equals to the require. Oops. And I'm going to have here the JSON web token. All right. Then I will also need the bcrypt. So let's have the bcrypt, which is equals to the require bcrypt. All right. And the last one is we will have the .env. So I'm going to have the require env.config. All right, so now what we will do is we are going to just remove this parameters, and here what we will do is we are going to have the constant. We will destructure the email and the password, and they will be coming from the params. After that, what we will do is we are going to make a validation here. If we have the email or if we have the password, then in that case what we will do is we are going to have the context.status. We're going to give the status as 400, and then we will return the message. So let's return the message. I'm going to have the message, and this message will be all fields are mandatory. All right, and the next thing what we will do is let's take a reference of the user table so that we can find the user. So I'm going to have the constant. We are going to have the user table reference, which is the AirCode.db.table, and the table name is user. So I'm going to have the user. All right, then we are going to find the user. So let's have the constant user, which is equals to the await user table. We are going to have the where. We are going to find the user by the email address. All right, then we are going to do a find one. All right, once we have the user, what we will do is we are going to check whether this particular user exists or not. So if we don't have this user, then in that case what we will do is we're going to set the context status as 401, and then we are going to pass the message. So let's have the return. I'm going to have the message, and I'm going to have it here email or password is not valid. All right, and if we have the user, that means we need to match the passwords now. So what we are going to do is we are going to have a constant. We're going to have the match password, which will be equals to await. So we are going to use the bcrypt again. So we're going to have the bcrypt dot compare the passwords. So we're going to pass our password, which we got from the request, and then we are compare it with the user dot password, which we fetch it from the database. All right, and if this password matches, so if match password, if it's the true, then in this case what we need to do is we need to generate a JWT token and then send the token to the user. So for that, what we are going to do is we are going to have the JWT access token. So let's have a constant first, and I'm going to have the access token here, and we are going to have the JWT dot sign. All right, and this is going to have an object. So in this object, what I want to pass is I want to pass the ID of the user. So this is going to be the user dot underscore ID. All right, and I also want to pass the user role, which is the is admin. Is admin, and I'm going to have the user dot is admin. All right, the next field which we want to do is we are going to have the access token secret, which is the part of the environment variable. So let's set that. So I'm going to go here, I'm going to click on the environment variable, and I will have it here as access token secret. All right, and the value of this access token secret is I'm going to have the page xxxx. So you can type any value here, but it should be a little bit complex. So I'm just giving it for the reference, simple page and 4 or 5 times x. All right, now we have this. Now what we will do is if we go, then here we will need the process dot read the environment, as we already have the .env here, so we can read it easily. So I'm going to have the read, and I'm going to have the access token secret. All right, and then we need to pass the expiry time. So let's have the expiry time. So I'm going to have the expires, and let's expire it in 1 hour. Let's expire it in 1 day, but you should not keep it as 1 day. All right, okay, so now we have all this information. We will have the access token, and then we can pass this access token. All right, we have this access token, and one more thing we are going to do is whenever we have an access token for a user, we're going to store that access token in our user collection against that particular user ID. So what I will do is I'm going to have the constant current user, and this is going to have the user information information. Oops, we are going to spread the user information, and we're going to have an additional information, which will be this access token. All right, and now we are just going to store it. So I'm going to have a constant result, and this is going to be await user table dot save, and just save our current user. So I'm going to have the current user. All right, and then just return the access token. So in short, we can just remove this. We don't want any result from that save, and then we are just going to return. Before returning, let's have the contact status 200. All right, and then we are going to return the access token. So let's return the access token. All right, and if this password doesn't match, then in that case we can have the else, and we can have the very similar in the else, that it's user and the password doesn't match. A user password is not valid. So I'm going to have it here, and we can just remove this. All right, so we have this function ready, and now let's give a try and let's test it. So what I will do is I'm going to go back here in the debug. We're going to pass these two information, and we're going to go to the console, and let's hit this. So I'm going to click on debug, and it is going to execute our function, and let's see what happens. So we get an error. So let's go and fix that. Cannot find module bcrypt. So we misspelled the bcrypt. So I'm going to remove this y, and then let's give a try. So I'm going to have it again. All right, and we see that .env, we also missed the quotes here. So we have the quotes now. Let's give a try again, and we see that the error expires is not allowed in the option. So let's go and let's check. So if we go here, and we will have this as expires in. All right, expires in, and then let's give a try. All right, so we see that everything works fine here. We get an access token in the response. So this is our response, and we get this access token. All right, now if we go to the database, we have actually added one more column. So if I click on it, and you will see that this access token now associated with this particular user ID. And if we go to the other user, then we don't see the access token. So every time we get a new token for this user ID, then we are going to just update our database table, and we are going to update the access token here. All right, so now we see that the login function is also ready. Now we need to have an helper function, which is the verify token, so that we can guard each of our endpoints, whether a particular user is allowed to use the function or not. So let's add that authorization part. So what I'm going to do is let's go to the helper function, and before that, if we want to deploy this, we can simply click on the deploy, and just I'm going to select this, and I'm going to select the register user, and let's click on deploy. So now you will see that these both functions are getting deployed, and we're going to see a URL here in some time after the deployment. All right, so now we have the deployment done, and we also have the endpoint for this API. All right, let's go to the verify token, and let's write the verification of the access token. So I'm going to go here, and what we will do is let's import the JWT. So I will have the JWT require. We're going to have the JSON web token. All right, and then here what we will do is first we are going to have the let token. All right, and we will also need the environment variables. So I'm going to have the constant, not constant, we're going to have the require. All right, we're going to require the .env.config so that we can read the environment variable files. All right, we are going to have the let token, and then I'm going to have the let auth header. This is not going to be an API endpoint for verified tokens. So what I will do is I'm simply going to remove this, and then we are going to have the context here, and from the context we will have the header information. So I'm going to have the context dot headers dot authorization. So we can have the authorization like this, or we can also have it in a lowercase. So I'm going to have the context headers dot authorization. All right, we're going to get the auth header here, and from the auth header what we are going to do is let's do a console.log of this auth header so that we can have it, the value. All right, now if we are going to have this auth header, and if we are going to have this auth header dot starts with, so let's have a starts with, and we are going to check for the bearer, then in that case we are just going to do a split and get the token out of this. So I'm going to have the token auth header dot split. Split. All right, we are going to split with a space, and then we are going to get an array, and we're going to take the value at index 1. All right, now we get the token. We can do a console log of the token if we want to see. So let's do a console log of the token, Then after that we will have the, let's have a try catch, and then we are going to just do a verify of JWT. So I'm going to have a constant user. I'm going to use the JWT dot verify. All right, in this I'm going to pass the token. We are going to have the process dot env dot access token secret. All right, and this is going to give us the information of the user that is logged in, the logged in user info, and I'm going to have it here as user. All right, then we will just return the user. So let's return the user from here. All right, and let's have a catch block. So if there is an error, then in that case we are just going to return null. That means we were not able to decode our token and get the information. All right, and then what we will do is we are simply going to check for that. If we don't get any token from the headers, then in that case also what we will do is we are going to return null. All right, so now we have this verify token function. We are not going to deploy this, and we are not going to create any endpoint out of this, because this is going to be a helper function and it is going to be used in all other functions. So now let's go and let's start working on the user again, and let's do the delete and the update API. So first we are going to do the delete endpoint. So I'm going to go to the delete function and let's import the verified token here. So I'm going to do a constant. We are going to have the verify token. All right, this is equals to the require. All right, so we have imported this, and then what we will do is first, let's, whenever this function is called, we will first do the verification. So I'm going to have a constant. I will take the token user, because only logged in user can delete it. All right, so I'm going to have the await. I will have the verified token, and I'm going to pass the context here. So this context is actually going to give us the request information. We pass this request information into the verified token, which actually takes the context, and then we check the headers. We get the authorization token, then we do the token, and then we just verify it. All right, so if we go here, then we have the token user. All right, and then we just make a check that if this token user is not equals to null, in that case we have received the information from the decoded token. All right, if it's not null, then we will just take the ID. So let's have the ID of that user. All right, and this ID will be coming from the token user. So in order to delete the user account, we don't even need the ID from the request body. We can easily decode it from the logged in user. Then we are going to have a reference to the user table. This is going to be equals to the aircode.db.table. We're going to have the user here. Then we are just going to find the user, because if we are trying to delete a user, we will first check whether the user exists in the table or not. So we are going to have the user table dot where. All right, I'm going to pass the ID. All right, I'm going to do a find one. All right, now if we get this user, then we will try to delete it. So what I will do is I'm going to have the try, and I'm going to have the constant result, which is equals to the await user table dot delete. So I'm going to have the delete, and I'm going to pass the user which I have just fetched here. All right, we want to delete this user, and then we are going to have the context status as 204, as the user is now deleted. All right, and I'm going to return the result. So let's return the result. Oops, this should be return, and this should be result. All right, and if this is not a case, then we are just going to have a catch block, which is going to keep an error inside that, and then we are going to have the error object. Let's have the context dot status as 500. All right, and then we will just return a simple error message. So let's have the message, and the message will be error dot message. All right, and this will be a colon, and we're going to do a return here. But now in this case, if this is a null, then in that case we have some problem with the token. So what we are going to do is we're going to have an else statement here. All right, and in this case we are going to set the context status as 401, and we are going to have a return message, and we are going to say the message as token invalid or user is not authorized. All right, so now we have already created this function completely. We can just give a try and we can just test it. So if I want to delete a logged in user, so what I will do is if I go to the debug, all right, so let's go and let's log in first. So I don't want to delete my admin user, so in that case what I will do is I'm going to change this to Ivan. I'm going to have the password as this. Let's click on the debug. All right, we have the access token. Let's use this access token. So I'm going to copy and let's use this access token to delete. So I'm going to delete the user. I'm going to go to headers. Let's have the authorization. I'm going to give the authorization as bearer token. All right, and in the parameters we don't need to pass anything, so let's remove this. All right, I'm going to click on debug now, and when we click on the debug we will see that okay, verify token is not a function, so we made a mistake here. This is, so if we go here, then we actually did not exported this. So what I will do is I'm going to have this verify function here, so we missed it. So we are going to have the verify token. All right, I will save it. Now we should be able to have the verified token here. So let's give a try again. Oops, I'm going to go debug, click on the debug, and now we should have the verified token. So we have the bearer token, we extracted the token, and we see that the token invalid or user is not authorized. So that means we are not able to get this token user. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply do a console log here. So let's have a console.log, and I'm going to have the token user here. We also get the token here. So if we go to our verify function, so if we go here to the verify, but here we see that we have some problem here. So if we just do a verify, so here I can see that we have misspelled this, so this should be access token. All right, I will save it and I'm going to run it again, and I made a mistake. It should not be verified token here, it should be delete. So let's go to the user and delete. So I'm going to go to the user and I'm going to click on delete. I have the token. We see the token, the logged in user info is this. We have this user info, which is the token user. So if we go to delete, we have this token user, all right, and it should be deleted. So we see that the result deleted count as 1. And if we go to the database, we should be able to see that the record is now deleted. So our delete is also working fine. So we can deploy this delete function. So if I click here, I'm going to click on deploy. I'm going to simply select the delete and I'm going to click on deploy. All right. The next function which we are going to work on is the update. So let's have the update users. So I'm going to simply copy the delete code and I will going to put it in the update. All right. And in the update, what we will do is we will need the verify token. Then we will have the verify token. We pass the context. We are going to get the token user. Then if the token user is not equals to null, in that case, we are going to take the ID of the user. We will also need the table reference. We will also need to find the user which we want to update. But we are going to omit some values, like we are going to omit the password, is-admin, and access token. So let's add the projection here. All right. In the projection, the first is the is-admin. So let's have the is-admin value is 0. That means we want to omit this. We will also want to omit the password, and then we will also omit the access token. So let's have the access token, and I'm going to have it 0. All right. So now for every user, what information you get from the request is if we go here, then what information you can update. You cannot update the ID, email, and password. You can only update your name in case you want. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the user. Let's have the user dot name, and we will replace this with a new name. All right. Then we are simply going to have a try and we are going to save the user. So let's save the user. All right. Then we are going to have the status as 200. All right. And then we can just return the user information. So I'm going to have the user information. All right. If it's a error, then we're going to have the 500 error message. And if it's an else, then we're going to have this token invalid stuff. Now let's give a try. So if I go back back. And now if we first let's do the login. So I'm going to go to the login user, and for the login what we will do is Ivan is not a user anymore, so I'm going to do the page here. All right, I'm going to send the request. All right, I get the access token. Now I'm going to copy this access token and I'm going to go to the update user. Here I can only update the name, so I can update my name as the page Malvia. In the header, let's pass the authorization. We're going to have the bearer token. All right, let's do a debug, and we see that we get the logged in user information, but we have a problem here that name is not a reference. So if we go here and if we see what the name is, so we have name but we did not destructure the name. So let's destructure the name. So I'm going to go here, I will have the constant name. All right, and this name will be coming from the params. All right, I will give a try again. Okay, the function is running, we get the token logged in user information, and here you will see that we now have the updated information. So if we go here, then the name is the page Malvia, and if we go to the database, the name has now changed to the page Malvia. All right, so the update is also working. Let's quickly deploy this update. So I'm going to click on deploy user update. All right, I'm going to click on deploy. So now we have already done with the user module. The next module, if we go here, then we have the auth, we also have the user. Let's work on the product module. So now let's go back. So I'm going to go here and I will just minimize this. All right, and I'm going to go to the product and let's start with the create product. And for the creation of the product, let's create the request first, how our product is going to look like. So I'm going to go to the product, and what fields we are going to have, we are going to have the title. So I'm going to have the MacBook Pro 15-inch. All right, then we will also need the description of a product. So let's have the description, and I'm going to have here as MacBook Pro with M2 chip and 8 GB RAM. All right, then we are going to have the in stock flag, so whether the product is in stock or out of stock. All right, I'm going to have it as true. Next value, we will have the category of that product. So category, this will be laptop. All right, then we are going to have the price. So let's have the price. All right, I'm going to have this $499. Then we are going to have the color of the product, and this will be titanium black, and we will have an optional size here. So let's have the size, and I'm going to keep it as empty because there will be no size for a laptop. So we have this. Now we will receive all this information in our params. So what we will do is let's do a destructure here first. All right, but before doing a destructure, what I want to show you is that product creation, deletion, updation can only be performed by the admin user. Normal user cannot create a new product, so they can only buy the product but they cannot create it. So we are going to allow only the admin user to use this functions. All right, so what I will do is I'm going to have the constant verify token. I'm going to have the require, this will be /helper /verify token. We have this, and now what we are going to do is first let's have the token user. We're going to have the await verify token. We are going to pass the context, and then we are going to make a check, and this will be if we have a token user not equals to null, and we are going to have the token user dot is admin true. Then in that case, what we will do is we are going to allow the user to create the product. Okay, so what we will do is let's destructure the data first. So we are going to have the title, we are going to have the description, we will have the in stock, we will have the category, price, size. All right, and all this will be coming from the params. All right, and let's do a small validation here. So if we don't have the title, or we don't have the category, or we don't have the price, so these three fields are mandatory. So in that case, we are going to have the error. So we will have the contact status as 400, and we are going to return a message. So let's have a return, and we will have the message, and we are going to have the title, category, I misspelled the category, title, category, and price is mandatory. We did the validation check, and then now what we will do is let's create the reference to the table. So I'm going to remove all this. All right, and here I'm going to have the constant to product table, which will be equals to the aircode.db.table, and we're going to have the product. All right, now we just need to do a small check for the product existence. So let's have the product exist. This will be equals to the awake product table, where if we have a title of that product, because each product should have a unique title, then in that case we are going to have a find one. All right, and if we find the product, then we are going to throw an error. So if we have the product exist, then let's set the context status to 400, and then we will have the return message. All right, message, and we will have the product already exist. All right, but if this is not the case, then let's have a try catch block. So I'm going to have the try, I'm going to have the catch, and in the catch we are going to have the error. All right, let's have the context dot status to 500, and then we are going to return the message. All right, let's have the message, and we are going to have the error dot message. This will be a colon, and then in the end we are going to just do a simple copy paste of the else part. So I'm going to have the else here. So let's have the else. We're going to have 401. Now let's work on this try block. So in this try block, what we are going to have is we're going to have a constant result, which will be equals to the await product table dot save. So we are going to save all the params that we have. All right, then we are going to have a contact status as 201, product created, and then let's return the message. So I'm going to have the return, and inside the return I'm just simply going to return the result. So let's return the result. Now we can just give a try. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply click on debug, and we should be able to create the product. All right, so we have this as undefined. So if I go here, and here what we will see that the token invalid or the user, because we did not pass any authorization here. So I'm going to have the authorization, and we need to pass the bearer tokens. We can get the token from update user. If we go to the database, we should be able to see now the product collection. All right, and if I click on it, then we see that this is the product which is already created. All right, now we can create one more product, and we can just change the values. So I'm going to have the 15-inch. I'm going to change this to 13, and I'm going to click on debug. Now the next, let's create the delete. So for the delete, what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to copy the user delete. So it's going to be very similar. So I'm going to copy this. All right, then I'm going to have the delete here. All right, I'm going to paste the delete here. All right, and in the delete also we will need the verified token. We're going to get the token user, and here we will also have that this can only be accessible to the admin user. So we are going to have is admin. All right, now if we have the is admin, then we are going to take the ID from the param. All right, we get the ID of the product from the param. We are going to have the product table, change this to product. We're going to fetch the info from the product. So this is going to change to a product. All right, then we are going to simply delete this product, which is going to give us a result 204, and the rest everything will be very similar. All right, so now we can just give a try for the delete. So what I will do is I'm going to go to the header. Let's have the authorization. Okay, and for the token, what we will do is we will just go to our product creation, and we are going to copy this. So I'm going to copy, and I'm going to go to deletion. I'm going to add it here, and you'll also need to pass the ID of the product that we want to delete. So I'm going to have the ID, and let's take the ID of this product. So I'm going to copy, and I'm going to add it. All right, I'm going to click on debug, and we should be able to delete the product. So let's see, we have the user, and it says that is admin is not defined. So this should not be is admin, this should be token user dot is admin. All right, I'm going to save it, and let's do a debug again. and we see that the user table is not defined. So we again made a mistake somewhere. So this is a product table and we need to delete it from the product table. So this time it should work. Okay, so we see that the deleted count is 1, so that the record is deleted from the database. And if we go to the product, we only see that we have the only one product. Next we will work on the update part. So the update will also be very similar to the update user. So I'm going to just do a copy paste of the update user. All right, I'm going to go in here. Now let's do a check here. So first what we will do, we will end. This will be token user dot is admin. All right, and we will also need to see that what fields we can edit. So we can edit the same request body, but this time we will also have the ID. So I'm going to do, and I'm going to just do a copy of this. All right, let's add the request as this one, and we're going to just remove these two fields because these two fields will not be accessible to the users. All right, so we have the exact product. Now we're going to make this product a change. So I'm going to have this as MacBook Air. This is also going to change to MacBook Air in stock as false. All right, so what I will do is we will not need all this information. So I'm going to remove this. We will just have product table. This will get changed to product. We are going to fetch a product from a product table. So let's have the product here. All right, we don't need any projection. Now we have the product. Now what we will do is, it is not allowed here. So what we can do is we can simply do a destructure here. So I'm going to go here and we will just do the destructure of all the fields. So we can just copy it. So we have all the values, all the fields, and we are going to search it with the ID. All right, once we have it, we are going to save. So what I will do is I'm going to have the constant result, which is equals to the await dot save, and we save the all the new values. So this will get changed to params. All right, and then we will just have the result here. Okay, we can give a try. So we made this changes, and now let's do a debug, and we see that we have a undefined here because we don't have any authorization here. So let's have the authorization. I'm going to have the bearer token. So let's copy it from the product create. I'm going to copy. Now I'm going to go here and I'm going to add it here. I'm going to click on debug, and now we should be able to update our product. Oops, I still see that we have a undefined, and that is because I made a spelling mistake here. All right, okay, so now you see that we get the response, and I think the product is also updated. So previously it was MacBook Pro, now it's MacBook Air. So our update API is also working, our delete API is also working, create is also working. Now let's do a simple read all products, and this read all products will not be a protected endpoint. It will be an open endpoint. Everyone can read the product in an e-commerce application. So let's simply write that. So what we are going to do is we are going to have the AirCode. I will have the params, and I'm going to just remove this, and I'm going to take a reference of the product table, which will be equals to the AirCode dot db dot table. We are going to have the product here. Then I'm going to do a query to my table. So I'm going to have a constant products await product table dot where. We are not going to pass anything in the where clause because we need all the records, and I'm going to have the find. So we are not going to do the find one. All right, so now we have all the products, and I will also need the count of the products. So what I'm going to do is product count. I'm going to have the await product table dot where, and then I'm going to have the count here. All right, I have the count, and now let's do a return. So I'm going to have the return, and I'm going to return the count as well as the products. All right, so we're going to have the count, and I will also have the product, and I will save it. So now this is an open endpoint, so we don't need to pass any authorization stuff here. And let's do a simple debug, and we should be able to see the count as 1 and the product. So you see that we have the 1 count, and we have the products array, which is going to list down all the products. So we are done with the product. We are also done with the user. Now if we go, then the next thing we're going to work on the order functions. All right, so let's go back here, and in the orders also, what I'm going to do is I'm first going to copy the create of a product. So I'm going to copy this. All right, I will go to the orders. I'm going to go to the create, and I'm going to have it here. All right, now what request that we are going to create for the orders? So for the orders, the request will be we are going to have the products array. All right, so this is going to have the products array. All right, and inside the products array we are going to have the product ID. I'm going to give an ID here. All right, I will minimize, and then we are going to have the quantity as value. All right, then we are also going to have the amount. All right, I'm going to have the amount as 1499. All right, and then we are going to have the address. So let's have the address. I'm going to have address as Wrocław, Poland, and along with that we are also going to have the status of the product. So let's have the status, and we are going to have the status as shipping. So let's have the shipping. All right, and then we are going to have a product and quantity as an object inside the object. So I'm going to have it here. So this is going to be our request for the orders. So we are going to have the products, and we are going to have an array of the products because a user can purchase or place an order for multiple products. We're going to have the amount, address, and we are going to have the status. All right. So here what we are going to do is order can be executed by normal user and admin as well. So we are going to remove this. All right. And let's do the destructure. So what I will do is I'm going to remove all this. All right. And we will only have the products. So let's have the products. We are going to have the amount. We are going to have the address, and then we are going to have the status. All right, we will just do a check that to place an order, product is mandatory, amount is mandatory, and the address is mandatory. All right, then we are going to have this products, amount, address is mandatory. Now let's create a reference to the order table. So I'm going to have the order, and I'm going to change this to order. And then what we will do is I'm going to remove all this, and let's create a new order. So I'm going to have a constant order, and in this I'm going to have all the params, and apart from the params I also want to tag the order with a user, logged in user. So what I will do is I'm going to have the user ID. All right, and this user ID will be coming from the token user dot underscore ID. So now I have created my order object, and now let's save this. So I'm going to change this to order table, and I'm going to add order here. All right, this is going to give me a status of 201, and then it is going to return, and if there is an error then we're going to catch the error, we're going to have it, and then we will have the same thing. So we have the order now. Now if we want to execute and test this, what we will do is first we need to do it from a normal user. So let's create a normal user. So I'm going to go to the register. I will create Ivan again, and I'm going to send a request. All right, now the user is created. Now what I will do is I'm going to try to log in with this user. So I'm going to go here and let's do the auth login. I'm going to change this to Ivan. So let's have a Ivan here, and let's fetch the access token. So now I have the access token. I'm going to copy the access token. All right, now I can go to the order creation. In the header I'm going to have the authorization. I'm going to click on the debug, and now if we go and check in the console, so let me open this console, then we see that the token invalid or the user is not authorized. So that means we have some problem here. So we have the token user, we have the context. All right, and the mistake we made is we have this bearer. So I'm going to have this bearer, and now let's give a try. Order is now created. So if we go in our database, then we should be able to see that we have a order collection now, and if we click on it and if we click here, then we see that this is the order ID and this is the order that is created. All right, so the order creation is working. Now we can also try for the order deletion and updation. So I'm going to go to the orders. All right, I'm going to go to the delete order, and I'm going to just have the authorization here, authorization, and I'm going to add the bearer token here. Now to delete the order, we will need the order ID, and it will be very similar to how we delete the product. So I'm going to copy the delete product one. So I'm going to copy, I will go to the delete order. So I'm going to add it here, and delete order can only be done by the admin user. So a normal user cannot delete their orders. So what we are going to do is we are going to get the ID of the order. All right, and then let's have the order table reference. So I'm going to have the order here. This will get changed to order. I'm going to fetch the order based on the ID. This will get changed to order. All right, then we are going to change this to order. All right, let's change this to order. This will also get changed to order, and it will get deleted, and then we get the same thing. All right, so now this should work fine. Let's delete the order. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on it, take the ID. I'm going to go here. I'm going to have underscore ID. I'm going to add it, and I'm going to have a debug. All right, and this should delete my order. So execution is completed, and we see that the token invalid. So if we go back here, we have the authorization. All right, so if we go here, and we see that the deletion cannot happen because deletion can only be done from an admin user, and the bearer token is for the Ivan user who is not an admin. We see that here is admin is false. So we can log in with the admin user and then we can just delete it. So that will work fine. Now we have the creation done and we have the deletion done. The next thing what we will do is let's do the update. So we are going to copy the update of the product because it's going to be very similar. So I'm going to go to the update and I will have the update here. All right, and for the update also we are going to have the request param as same as the creation. So what I will do is I'm going to do copy and let's add it in the update. So I'm going to have it in here. All right, so in the update what I want to update is let's update this product ID, because when I created the order, this product ID was missing. So if I go here, then you will see that there is no product ID. So let's update that. So I'm going to click here. I'm going to take the product ID. I'm going to add the product ID here. Apart from that, I can also change this to from Wrocław, Poland to, let's say, Warsaw, Poland. All right, and the shipping status, I can change this to cancel. I mean, if a user, then we can allow the user to cancel the order. So in that case also the order will get update and we can have it as cancel. So now what we will do is to update it, we will allow the update to the admin user as well as the normal user. So I'm going to remove this. All right, I will remove this, and here what we will do is let's copy this. All right, so we have this params. I'm going to copy, or what I will do is I'm going to copy this whole block because this will make it more relevant to the orders. So I'm going to copy whole block, we'll go to the update, and then I'm going to copy and replace the whole block here. And we are allowing the token, which is not a user. We will have the products amount address from the params. We will just remove it as we are not creating the product, so we don't want to check this. Then we will have a reference to our order table, and then what we will do is we are going to find the order first. So I'm going to go here and I will have the await order table. So let's have the order table dot where we're going to pass the ID of the order. So here you will see that we have this order, but we will also need to pass the ID of the order so that we can update it. So I'm going to have the underscore ID, and we can take the ID from the order. So if I go to the orders, if I click on it, I can take the ID of the order. All right, and I can have it. Okay, and we will, doing the destructuring, we will also have the ID here. So let's have the ID here. So in the where clause, I would like to find my order from the table, and I will have the find one here. So let's have the find one. All right, and once I find my order, what I will do is I will make a check that the normal user can only change the status to cancel, because if they want to cancel the order they can cancel it, but they cannot change the status to like delivered or processing or shipping, because those can only be handled by the admin side. So here what I'm going to do is I will have that if token user dot is admin. All right, if it's not an admin, and I will have the status dot to lowercase, and if the status in the lowercase is not equals to cancel, then in that case what we will do is we are going to throw an error to the user, context dot status 400. All right, and then what we will do is we will just return a message. So let's have a return message. I'm going to return a message, and this message will be order update not allowed. All right, and if this is not the case, then in that case we are just going to update the order. So what we are going to update is we are going to update the order dot status to status, and if it's not, then we are just going to have the order dot status. All right, we are going to have the order dot status dot address. Then in that case we are going to take the address, and if we don't have the address, we are simply going to have the order dot address. All right, and then we will also have the order dot products, which is equals to the products, and if it is not, then we will just keep the same order dot products. All right, so we have updated all the values. Now let's save them. So what I will do is I am simply going to use this. So I'm going to have this one cut, and then I'm going to add it here. All right, so we are going to have the order table dot save context to 100, because this is now updating, and then we are just going to pass the result. All right, so I'm going to just remove this and pass the result. All right, so now what we will do is let's give a try. So if I'm going to have this, then I will just changing my address. I'm changing the status to cancel. All right, I'm also adding the product ID. Now if I go here, I will have the authorization. So let's have the authorization, and let's copy the bearer token from some other API. So if I go and delete the order, and I will just copy, I'm going to use it here, and let's have it here. All right, I'm going to do a debug. All right, we see the logged in user information, and we see that the order is now updated. So if we go to the database and if we click on this order, then we see that we have this information is updated. Now since it's a user, and if a user is trying to change the status other than cancel, so let's have the shipping, and if I send a debug, then you will see that we are going to get an error that order updation is not allowed. So now our delete also working. Now let's go and let's do a read all orders, which can only be done by the admin user. So I'm going to copy the all products. All right, I'm going to copy and I'm going to add it here. So let me have it here. All orders can only be accessible to the admin users. So let's have the verified token import. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to add it verified token. All right, and then we are also going to have the call here. So I'm going to do a copy paste. I'm not going to type it again. And then let's have a check. So I'm going to have a check that if, so I'm going to go here, I'm going to have this check. All right, and then I'm going to have it here. Let's do a formatting a little bit, and if it's an else, then we can just have the else block. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to add it else here. We're going to change the product to orders. So I'm going to have the F, and let's change this to order. I'm going to do a replace all. All right, so what we are going to do is we are going to take a reference of the order table, then we are going to take all the orders, we are taking the orders count, and then we are just going to give it, and this can only be accessible by the admin users. So let's go and let's try and to log in with a admin user. So I'm going to go here, I will change Ivan and I'm going to make it as the page. Let's get the access token. Now we have the access token. Now let's copy the token. I'm going to copy, I will go to the order all, I will go here, I will have the authorization, I will add the bearer token, and we don't need to pass anything in the params, and let's do a send. So now we should be able to, we get an error, and the error is a helper function, they cannot found it. All right, and this should be only helper. All right, I will save it, and now let's do a debug again. All right, so now we can see that we have all the orders. So now if we create more orders, then we should be able to get more orders. So if I'm going to copy this, I'm going to create some more orders. So let's go to the order, I'm going to go here. All right, so I will need the product ID. So let's have the product ID. All right, I'm going to copy, I'm going to add it here. All right, I'm going to change the quantity as 3, and this amount will get 3.2, and I'm going to keep it as it is. Let's do a create. So now we see that we have created the order, and in the database also, if we go and check, then we see that there are 2 orders. So now let's go and let's have all orders, then we should be able to see 2 orders. All right, so we see the 2 orders. Now we have one more endpoint, which is to get the orders only for a particular user. So in that case, what we are going to do is let's copy this first. I'm going to copy, then I'm going to add it here. All right, and this can be accessible by the user. So now what we will do is we are going to take the reference of the order table, and then we are going to have the orders, but in this case we are going to have a where clause, and in the where we are going to have the user ID, which is going to be equals to the token user dot underscore ID. We are going to get all the orders, we are going to get the count, and then we should be able to return them. So I'm going to click on the debug, and we should only be able to get one. Oops, we get an error. So let's check the error, and we see that we cannot find the module. All right, since it is inside the user folder, so we need to go to level up directory. So I'm going to do a debug now, and we see that we get an undefined because we did not pass any authorization. So let's have the authorization, and I'm going to copy the authorization from if I go down, I'm going to copy it from the create orders. I will go here. All right, and I'm going to add it. All right, I'm going to do a debug, and this time we can only see that we will have only one order because this user have only one order. So you will see, oops, we see that we have 2 counts. So if we go to our database, and if we go to the orders, then let's see the user. So we see that we have the same user ID. So this user has 2 orders. All right. So this is retrieve the orders based on the user ID, and this one is retrieve all the orders, which is only accessible to the admin users. So now we are done with the order as well. We are next, if we go to and we see that we need to work on the cart, but the cart will be very similar to how we have the order. So we can do a lot of copy paste of the order functions into the cart functions. So let's go back, and if I go to the orders, if I start with the create, so I'm going to go here, I'm going to copy, and let's add in the cart, and let's have a create. But the thing is, for the cart, the creation, updation, deletion, and retrieval, they all can be done by a normal user, because normal user can delete the items in the cart. So it is not only admin function, it can be done by any of the logged in user. All right. So if we go to the params, then for the params, what we will have is we are only going to have the products. So what I will do is I'm going to copy, and then I'm going to add it here, and we can just add the products in our cart. So we will have the product ID, quantity, product ID, and quantity. All right. Since they are not the actual products, so if we go here, then we see that we have only one product. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to add it here. All right. Or maybe I will add it twice. That's not a problem. Okay. So let's create one more product. So what I will do is I'm going to go to the products, and then we are going to create one more product, which will be MacBook Pro, and we're going to keep this. So I'm going to click on debug. All right. So now if I go to the database, if I go to the products, we have 2 products. So now let's add the product ID to our cart. So if I go back here, and then the second product will be of this cart. So I'm going to add it here. So this is the cart, and what we are going to do is this can be accessible by the normal user. So let's first have the products from the params. All right. And now we will just check that if we have the products, or if we don't have the products, we are just going to do a small validation. All right. And after the validation, let's create a reference table for the cart. So what I will do is order table, I'm going to replace with the cart table and replace all. Now we have the cart table. So this is going to be a cart. Now what we will do is we are going to create a new cart. So I'm going to have the cart. I will take the params, and the cart is also associated with a logged in user. So we are going to have the logged in user. We are going to save it in the cart. So let me change this to cart. Then we are going to get a 201. We're going to give the result as response, and then we're going to have, if the error, we are going to catch the error, and then we have this. Okay. So now we can give a try on this. So what I will do is I'm going to have the authorization, and let's take a token. So I'm going to take a token from, let's log in. So I'm going to click on the login, and I'm going to log in from a normal user. So let's have a one, and I'm going to click on the debug, and that is going to give me the access token for the normal user. All right, let's take the access token, and let's go to the cart. If I go here, I'm going to have the bearer token, and let's have a debug. So we see that this is the logged in user info, and we have the cart. So if we have go here, then we should see a cart collection, and we see that we have the information in the cart. So create cart is done. Now let's go to the delete cart. So delete cart, very similar with the delete orders. So I'm going to go here. All right, I'm going to copy paste, and then let's go to the delete. I'm going to copy paste, and let's replace the order table with cart table. So I'm going to have the cart table replace all. All right, and we see that we made a mistake here. It's order spelling is mistake. So let's go to the delete order, and let's fix this. So I'm going to have the order here. All right, we can check in the update, it's fine. We can go to create, it's fine. We can go to all, it's fine, and all, it's fine. All right, so let's go back to our cart. All right, and in the cart we were working on the delete. So let's go to delete, and this will be from the cart. And deletion can be done by a normal user, so we don't need any admin user or only the admin user. All right, so we have a cart. We will find the cart based on the ID which we will provide. Then we are going to delete the order, and then we are going to just have the response. All right, let's give a try. So if I go here, I want to have the ID underscore ID of the cart, and let's have the ID. So if I cancel this, I will go to the cart. I will take the ID of my cart, add it here. All right, and let's add the authorization. So I'm going to have the authorization, and let's go to create card and take the token. So I'm going to copy this card delete, and we are going to have the authorization here, and I'm going to send the request. And now we will see that this will delete the cart item. All right, so we get something and we see that order is not defined. Okay, oops, this should be a cart. All right, now let's send a request again and we see that the cart is deleted. All right, now the next thing is update the cart. So for that, what we will do is first we are going to create the cart again. So let's go to the cart and let's send a request. So it is going to create a cart for us. All right. Okay. So we have the cart. Now we are going to update this cart. So we can enhance this more. We can enhance this more by allowing the user to create cart only once. So we will just check whenever the user tried to create the second cart, we will just check it from the database that whether the record exists for this particular user, and then we can just replace it with the new cart values. All right, so that every user will have only a single entry in our cart table for the items added in their cart. All right, so now if we go for the update, so let's go to the update and I'm going to copy the update from the orders. So I'm going to have the copy and I'm going to have it paste here. All right, so for the update, a user can update the cart. So what I will do is we have the ID and the products from the param. Let's take a reference. So I'm going to have a cart here and I'm going to have a cart here. Then what we will do is we are first going to find the cart. Okay, so we are going to find the cart based on the ID. So I'm going to have the cart here. All right, so we can find it. Now we don't need this logic because cart doesn't have anything related to the status. And then what we will do is we are simply going to have the cart table save, and we are going to save the params. So whatever values we are getting, we are just going to save them. All right, and then we're going to pass the result and then everything is the same. All right, so this way we can update the cart. So if we want to try, what we can do is we can go here, we can just copy, we can go to update cart. We will also need the cart ID. So let's have the cart ID and I'm going to go to the database, take the cart ID. So we have this cart, we click it, and this cart has two products. So what I will do is I'm going to remove one of the product and then just have one product. So I'm going to go here, I will add the ID and I'm going to remove the second product. So let's remove the second product. All right, now I'm going to click on debug and I think I haven't passed the authorization. So let's have the authorization and I will have the authorization token from the create cart. So I'm going to copy and I'm going to have it here. So let's have it here and I'm going to send the request. So let's do a debug and we should be able to see that the cart is updated. Okay, so the cart is updated, and if we go in the database and if we check this, then we see that there is now only one product in our cart. All right, so we are done with the create, delete and update. Let's do all. So I'm going to go to the orders and I'm going to copy. All right, I'm going to go here and have the same thing. So this all can only be accessible by the admin user. So only admin user can access all the carts for all the users. All right, so here what we will do is we are just going to replace the order table with the cart table. So let me have the cart table. We're going to have replace all. All right, this will get changed to cart, this will get changed to carts count, cart table, and then we are going to have this to cart. Right, so that's the only thing we need to change. Now if we want to try this, let's go to the product create and take the token. So product creation is the token by an admin user. So if I go here, let's have the authorization and I'm going to add a token here. All right, we don't need to pass anything in the params, and let's do a request. So we should be able to fetch all the carts for all the users. So here it says cart is not defined, so we made a mistake somewhere, and where it could be, okay, this should be carts. All right, I will have a request again. I'll close this, and this time we see that we have the count one and we have the list of the carts. So this is for the admin user, but now let's have a cart for a logged in user. So if a logged in user wants to access his carts, they can do it in the same way how we have it for the orders. So I'm going to copy from the orders and let's have it in the cart. All right, now here what we will do is this is accessible by normal user. So I'm going to replace this with cart table, replace all, and I'm going to replace order with cart. So I'm going to have replace all. All right, so we have taken a reference of the cart table. We fetch all the carts based on the user ID, and the ID is fetched from the token user, which is from the logged in user. We get the count of the cart and we pass it. All right, so now if we want to try it, we can have it from the admin user as well. We will get the same result. Okay, let's pass the authorization. Okay, let's take the authorization from cart all. So now let's send the request, and we will see that this is the admin user, but we are fetching it based on the user ID. So maybe the logged in user has no cards. So if we go to the database, we have this ID, and if we go to the user ID, then okay, so what we will do is we are going to fetch it from a normal user. So if I go here, I'm going to take the here and replace the bearer token. So this bearer token is of a normal user. So let's see if this normal user has any cards or not. And we see that this user has a card. So Ivan has one product in his cart. So we are finally done with the cart as well. We have all the things are ready. The last thing we need to do is the checkout. So for the checkout, we are going to see how we can do the integration with the Stripe payment gateway. All right, so if we go here, we see a checkout, we have a payment, and we have to create the Stripe payment intent. So let's go to the Stripe website. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on processing payment platform. All right, now you need to create an account. I already have a developer account. So if I go to the dashboard, all right, in the dashboard, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this developers, and in the developers, you will see that you have the API key. So you have a publishable key, you have a secret key. So I'm going to use my secret key. All right, I will go to the AirCode platform, and in this, I need to add my secret key. So what I will do is I'm going to add a Stripe key here. So I will have the Stripe underscore key, and I'm going to put the value here. All right, so I have added the value. Now we can use this Stripe key as an environment variable. So let's go to the payments. All right, and in the payments, what I will do is first let's import the Stripe. So I'm going to have the constant Stripe, as we have already added the Stripe as a dependency. So if we want to see, we can go to dependency, and we see we already have the Stripe. So what I will do is I'm going to have the require, then I'm going to have the Stripe here. All right, and here I'm going to have my environment file. So I'm going to have the process.env.stripe underscore key. And if I want to check, then I think this Stripe underscore key is, I'm just going to do a copy paste just to avoid any errors. All right, so now we have imported the Stripe. Now what we need to do is first we need to create the payment intent. So if we go to the dashboard, and if we go to the help, and let's do the developer docs, then in the developer docs, you will see that the payment intent API. So this is the payment intent API, and I'm going to click on this, and this is going to take us to the API for the payment intents. All right, so first we are going to create the payment intent, and we are going to use the endpoint for the payment intent. And why we need to create the payment intent? So if we go to the payment methods, so if I go to the payment methods, then if we scroll down, then you will see that what happens is instead of creating a payment method directly on the server side, first, what we need to do is we recommend to create a payment intent API to accept payment immediately or the setup intent. All right. And then with this, we are going to get a response of a client secret, which would give it to the front end application. And then front end application will use the Stripe package and then use the payment method confirmation. So you will find everything documents here, but on the server side, what we need to do is we are going to create the payment intent. So let's go back here. And what I'm going to do is let's have the constant verify token. So this is equals to the require. Then we are going to have dot slash helper slash verify token. All right, and then what we will do is we are going to create a constant of token user, which will have the verified token, and we're going to pass the context in the verified token. So let's have the context. Now, if this token user is not equals to null, then in that case, we are going to do something. But if it is null, then in that case, we are going to throw the error. All right. So I'm just going to do a copy from some other. So if we have this, then else will be this one. So I'm going to go here and let's add the else part. All right. Now what we need to do here is that first let's create a try catch block. So I'm going to have the try. All right. Then we are going to have the catch error, and then here in the error we are going to have the context dot status. We're going to have the status as 500. All right, then we are also going to return, and let's return a message, and we're going to add it the message as error dot message. All right, and in the try block, what we are going to do is let's have a constant, and we are going to destructure. So first, let's create the request. What request the payment intent is going to accept. So I'm going to go, and what I will do is first let's have the amount. All right, the amount will be a number. So I'm going to have 1199. All right, then we are going to have the currency. This currency will be USD, and then we are going to have the payment method type, and I'm going to pass it as a card. All right, and you will see that what all these parameters, you can see all the parameters here in the create payment intent. So if we go to payment intent, and if we want to click here, then you will see that we have the amount which is required, currency is required, confirm, customer ID if you have, then there are a lot of payment method, so you can add all the information which you have. So you will see that we also have the payment method types, and you can pass any of this information. We are just passing the cards, but you can pass, there's a lot of values which you can pass. You can pass the pay now, PayPal, account balance, and all this information. So if we go back here, and we are going to pass the payment method as type, so let's destructure it. So I'm going to have the amount, I'm going to have the currency, and then I'm going to have the payment method type, and this will be coming from the params. So let's have the params. All right, now what we are going to create is we are going to have the constant payment intent, which will be equals to the stripe. Okay, so this is going to be an asynchronous, so let's have the await. I'm going to have the stripe dot payment intents dot create. All right, and in this we are going to pass all the information. So we are going to pass the amount, we are going to pass the currency, and then what we are going to pass, we are going to pass the payment method type. So I'm going to have the payment method types. All right, and this is simply an array. So here I'm going to type the payment method type. All right, so now we created this, and then what we can do is we can simply do a console log of our payment intent. So I'm going to do a console log. The payment intent is, let's add the payment intent here. All right, and to the user, we will only need to send the client secret. So in the response, we will send the client secret, which will be used by the front-end applications. So I'm going to have a constant, and I will destructure the client secret from the payment intent. All right, and then I will just do a return. So let me do a return, and we're going to return the client secret, and I will also have the contact status 200. So payment intent is created successfully. And if it's an error, then we can have that the request to the Stripe payment intent is not correct. So we're going to change this to 400. Let's give a try. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the create card, and then I'm going to take the authorization token. Let's go here. I'm going to have the authorization. I'm going to have the bearer token, and then I'm simply going to pass the request. So I'm going to have the debug. Let's see what happens. Okay, so we see that the payment intent is created, and if I click on it, you will see that there's a lot of information. You have the ID, object, amount, and there's a lot of fields, but the important field which we need to send it to the front-end application, and then the front-end application can send a request to the Stripe payment confirmation, passing this client, and along with that, they will also pass their payment method type, like the card information and everything. All right, so the payment intent is created, and we have successfully integrated with the Stripe payment gateway. So now if we go and if we see, then we have completed all the modules. We have also created the payment, and if we go here, then we see everything is done. Now if you want to deploy all the endpoints, you can just click on the deploy, and you can just click on the deploy, and this is going to take some time to deploy all the functions to the cloud, and you will get the endpoints which can be used by the front-end application team. So now everything is deployed, and if we want to see it, then if we go to the products, if we copy this and let's go to the browser, I'm going to go to the browser, and I'm going to just simply send it. Then we should be able to see the products. So you will see that now we have the products here. So I'm going to just zoom in a little bit. Then you will see that we have the products here. So in this way, now this backend project is completely ready with the Node.js Serverless REST APIs for the e-commerce application. Now what I will do is I'm going to just do an export, and I'm going to publish this to the GitHub account. So that you can have a reference of it and you can use it. So definitely, I mean, if you want to go for a serverless, then you can use the AirCode and you can create your projects, and this is a good platform to build the REST APIs very quickly without having any servers. So that's all I have in this video. I hope you liked the video. A thumbs up is appreciated. You can also connect with me via Facebook or Instagram. You can follow me on Twitter for latest updates, and before you go, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon so that you don't miss the videos like this one. Thank you. Thanks for watching.